Hello artists. So today I'm going to talk to you about making something using the coil method. So when you get your chunk of clay and you are getting ready to start making your coils, you're going to want to take a good healthy chunk of your clay, maybe in half or about a third, and break it off, okay? And then what you're really doing is just rolling snakes. Now this is dirty. You're gonna get dirty doing this because this clay, you know, it's the real deal. And so we have this mat down so that we can kind of keep the tables a little more clear and clean. It's easier cleanup. We can just pick these mats up and move them. You're gonna wanna make sure you're leaving your hand as flat as possible as you're rolling. And if you have any jewelry on, like I do, a ring, it's going to make a divot in there every time you roll. So you're probably going to take that off. But anyway, and then as you get longer, you can kind of gently roll out, okay? And I'm going for something that is larger than a pencil, but not by a lot. You want to try to roll your coils as evenly as possible. If you're getting a spot where it's thicker or thinner, you're just pushing harder or not as hard, depending on which way it goes. So if you're getting to the point where it's making it too thin, you're just pushing it too hard, okay? If you have a thicker spot, you just need to move your hands and kind of keep moving them along the clay and widening your coil, okay? So here's one. I'm gonna go ahead and roll my other piece out, or I might do two just because that kind of got long on me, and then I will be back. One thing I didn't really point out, I guess, in the first part was when you take your chunk of clay, what I did first was almost squish it out into that longer cylinder type of shape so that you have a good beginning. If you just start to try to roll it where it's uneven, it does make it a little more difficult. So if you just go ahead and squeeze it and manipulate it into that longer chunk, then you will have an easier time getting to roll. Now, you'll have a plan of what you're going to do before you start this, but I will have some plates and some bowls that you can form this structure into depending on what you're going to make. You're going to need to make this though in one day because these will dry out with the air. So the quicker you work, the better it will work for you. The slower you work, the more you're going to struggle. So you need to really have your plan in place, ready to go. So you'll have some sort of a design ready in your mind that you're going to be making. I will have some clay tools. I'm recording this in my own home studio, so I'm just grabbing a plastic knife that I can cut these into pieces with. I will have on your table a clay coil example sheet, and you can use those sorts of coils to help you create your project. All right, this is the sheet that I was talking about that will be available on your table. And so you can see the different types of coils that you could create within your project. You will need to have your plan kind of already hashed out because you don't want to be deciding the day you're making it. So we will have a sketching time that you'll already have done and you'll have a plan. Now I'm going to make sort of a round coaster and it will fit within this plate. If you want the sides to come up a little bit, then you got to fill this plate and then put another coil around the edge. Once this starts to dry, it will shrink and it will get a little bit smaller than this plate. Same thing with the bowl. If you're going to make a bowl, you have to fill your bottom first and then work your way up. I will have some examples and show you hopefully some other ideas if I can find a few, and I will drop those in at the end of this demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my coil in here, and I have 3 of them made from that sphere that I started with. And you can decide if you're going to put like your initial in it or something like that, which is what I'm kind of planning on doing. So I'm going to go ahead and make sort of an A in here. And again, you can cut your pieces after you've got them into a nice long coil. You'll be able to do that fairly simply. And you can always smooth these ends. I think I'm going to leave them for right now, and I'll fill in as I go. My plan is to take this A and kind of have like a design around the outside with a circle, and where you're joining together 2 Again, you'll have to kind of smooth and work on that. So that's the part that's going to take the time, because if you don't, this will be this place that it cracks first and it will end up breaking. I'm gonna lay that in there and kind of smooth. Okay, and I'm going to start working on filling this in, and then I'll have you join back up with me. Now, as you can see, I'm working to fill in my negative space, this empty space that is not the letter A. I'm working to fill it in. I took some clay and I rolled in my hand another little small sphere, and I started placing them in there. I'm not smoothing them down yet because I think I'm going to smooth the back because I don't want the top to be all flat. I want to be able to see the coils when I'm done. So I'm kind of laying these coils in here, and I'm measuring it, and then I'm kind of marking it with the knife, and then I'm cutting it over here on the mat just so it doesn't bend it too much while I'm trying to fill this in. And it's going to kind of squeeze in there. And then what I'll do is I will actually turn this plate upside down at the end and pull this gently out from the plate, and then I'll smooth the back. I want to go ahead and finish filling in these two sides, and then I'll be back. All right, so I carefully peeled my coaster out, and I literally had to like push this inside out gently, but I'm gonna lay it back in this plate when I'm done. I will have a bag for you to put extra clay in if you do not use it all, because I'm clearly not gonna need all of that. And now this is upside down, so this is the back of my little coaster, my little trivet here. And what you'll want to do is just literally smooth it all out, like gently. It will smear, but this will join all of those pieces together so that they will not come apart later. Oops, I got something green on there. And you're going to make sure that it's as smooth as you can get it, because if you leave any like little pieces sticking up, that will dry, and it is really rough and sharp when it dries, because this will be fired in the kiln, and you will not be able to fix it at all. Once it's dry, it's going to be the way that you leave it. So you can see I'm literally just taking my finger and almost like wiping it across its own self. So that's what you're going to do on the back side. You don't want to do it on the front because, well, if your letter's not symmetrical, I know my A was, but you would flip it over and it would be backwards. So you want to be doing this on the back of your piece rather than the front. Now, if you're doing a bowl, you know, you could smooth the inside of the bowl, and the outside will still have all of the coils showing once you get it out of the bowl. It'll dry in the bowl just fine. We just don't have to take it out of the bowl. You can smooth the inside. Now the plate or the trivet, you may want to do the back of it because you're going to see mostly the top then of that. And so that will make more sense to do the back or the underside. Okay, so let me finish this up and then I'll show you when I'm done. One thing that I might mention is if you do have like a hole in the back that's not filling in very well, you can always take a little bit of that extra clay and gently kind of just rub that into that space. If you've got a big divot or a big spot, you've really got to make sure though that you blend it in and make it so you can't tell that that was added. I mean, it's got to be nice and smooth across there. All right, so I'm finishing up this last little bit, and I think that's pretty good. So then you're gonna gently pick it up, turn it over, and that will be your trivet. Now, if there's, you know, places here that you wanna smooth, which I am seeing now that I need to, you wanna get that smoothed out as well. And again, you wanna be able to do this in a day. So you're gonna have to hustle and not be doing a whole lot of other stuff, because what happens when the timer goes off and you're not done smoothing? Well, it stays rough then, and you will not get to do that. You'd have to come in at recess or something and finish it up that same day. Otherwise, the next day, it's too dry to really even do anything with, okay? So this will have your name on the back, which I did not do yet. So you need to make sure you put your name and your class ID. I'll have some pencils that we will use just for clay. That way they only have clay stuff on them and we're not trying to draw with them later. So put your name and your class code on the back, and then we will put them in a place to dry, and I will direct you to that when we get to that point, okay? So there's your clay trivet or your clay bowl Coil project.